Joining us now from CREST is Ian Glover. Ian, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
What would you say the most interesting aspects of CRESTCon 2012 have been for you?
I think it's been the breadth of different threats that people are now considering. When we first started to do this particular conference, we were looking at predominantly at the infrastructure elements. Now we've introduced the applications and also database security and mobility. So all of the different things right the way through to cloud security are the sorts of things that should be considered. And those are all coming through now from a technical perspective in terms of technical security.
In the last few years, information security has moved higher and higher up the IT agenda, but also the wider business agenda is being driven by a wide range of factors, including different motivations for people to attack organizations and companies, different tools being used. Do you think the time has come now for an organization such as CREST to show that leadership and to show industry not just how to protect themselves, but how to make sure the right type of people with the right skills are doing that work?
It's not CREST's job to actually do that, but what we try to do is to ensure that there are skilled, competent and knowledgeable people in the marketplace, and they are differentiated from those opportunistic people that just enter the marketplace with a CV that they can make up almost. In addition to that, if you combine that with a professional organisation that has good processes and controls in place to look after the client-based information, then I think that combination is really what organisations should be looking for.
One of the things that struck me about the event this year is the wide range of people attending as well. So on the one hand, you have the small and specialist companies who have been in information security for a long time, but you increasingly have delegates from, for example, the large professional services firms and the large IT companies that have taken on board concepts such as penetration testing that a few years ago they wouldn't have even considered. What's driving them to do that?
I think from the large organisations there's a number of perspectives. I think the drive towards professionalisation is unstoppable now. I think that we as an industry should be more professional in what we do, and there should, as I said, be differentiators between those who are professional in the marketplace and those who are just operating within it. If you look at those large systems integrator organisations, then the need to have some level of assurance that the individuals providing those services to their clients is a really important factor. If you look at the large accountancy firms, then their ability to internationalise their marketplace by having the same level of skills, so in other words, the same level of examination and competence across the different regions, is the way they can actually offer an international perspective. From the SME marketplace, then I think it just extends what they're going to do. So on a local level, it's much better to be involved within something that has a more international flavour. And if they want to work overseas, then it makes that opportunity much more broad and much more available to them within the marketplace.
Coming back to the issue of the threat landscape, organisations seem to be under attack on more and more fronts. And the range of threats that people have identified at this conference and others, whether it's through 3G graphics in the web browser or hackers who move away from the traditional approach of making as much noise as possible and actually stealthily come into your network and sit there possibly for years before stealing your data, gives CIOs and CISOs a lot more they need to tackle. How should they go about prioritising and understanding what threats they should deal with first?
The threat and risk assessment, which is really what you're talking about from that perspective, is a very difficult thing to understand. I think if you look back over the last 7 years rather than just 5, we've moved from looking at the procedures and controls and awareness programs from within organisations to just try and raise the bar a little bit. And now what we're seeing is the technical areas coming back into the fore, which I actually think is absolutely right. So what we're seeing now is the drive towards technical IA security, which protects against a broad range of threats, is really the direction people should go. They should also have confidence in terms of the infrastructure, the applications and the databases that actually operate the business itself. If you really wanted to prioritise those, you should absolutely protect the infrastructure. I think that just goes without saying. You should spend a lot more time, I think, looking at the web applications and normal application controls, and actually have somebody in there from an applications testing perspective in with the design and development team to actually help them to secure code for the future. What we don't want to do is to fix problems. What we do want to do is to make improvements. And finally, I really think that we need to be looking at the databases, because if you look at the general database administration side and the implementation of some of those large database systems, then certainly some of those are being implemented with very little concern for security. And if you've got those sorts of aspects and you've got those sorts of access rights, then the ability to access all of the data with interpretation, which I think is the important perspective from there, is available to those individuals. If I was mounting an attack right now, I would definitely be going on the insider side of things and attacking the database.
And on the macro level, organisations don't exist in isolation. We are seeing concerns, for example, that businesses could suffer if there's an attack against critical national infrastructure, even if that's infrastructure they use rather than run. And that raises the question of whether industry on its own can solve this, or whether it needs to be businesses working with the security industry and in particular with governments to help to address some of the threats and reduce the threat levels. Is that something that you think will become increasingly important throughout the remainder of 2012?
We have within CREST a number of research activities that we'd like to undertake. Looking at the critical national infrastructure is absolutely one of those things I'd like to research. I'd like to do that research with the support of government and industry. The reason for that is if you look again at the infrastructure type controls, we've had a locked room. So we've had a system with an infrastructure in place that's been operating some function, and it's had no outward connectivity at all. We look at those domains and they've got no firewalls. You do no updates because you can't turn them off. There is no intrusion analysis because nobody is going to look at it. And if you look at the overall structure of that, it's done in a very insecure way, but that's fine because it used to be in a locked room. What we're now seeing is IP connections coming into there. And as soon as you do that, then you've got a leak out of that door into a different domain. And I think the frightening side of that is if you then link that into a back-end system where we're doing some other form of administration or business administration, then all of a sudden we're having normal controls linked into something which is inherently insecure. Now, currently, there are concerns in those areas. What I don't think we've actually done is to validate whether those concerns are real, and then we haven't put forward a strategy for, first of all, making sure the segmentation remains in place for the period of time it takes to update it, and then what we're going to do to protect it in the future. I really think we need to do some more research in there, and I hope that CREST can take a lead on that.
And whether you're in government, business, or the security industry itself, you can't let down your guard.
Absolutely not.
Ian Glover from CREST, thank you very much.
Thank you.